The next stop is On the Radar Radio.
Stand clear of the closing doors, please.
Hi guys, it's On the Radar.
Oh shit.
We got a legend in the building. Mike Geronimo is in the building here with me. What's
How
up, my
y'all
brother?
feel?
How
I'm
you
good.
doing?
I'm good. Bro.
We were just kind of talking. I figured we started rolling the cameras.
And we was just chopping it
It's
up.
the couch, bro.
It is.
It's the couch.
It is. I
It's a comfy
explained
couch.
this is a football nap couch. Like this is second game on Sunday. You probably gonna miss the game because of
Definitely
couch.
gonna miss the game.
Yeah.
But what you were just asking me was about this spot. So this spot right here, this is our studio. This is the On the Radar studio. The last spot we were in was called HMD Studios. And basically, and you were asking about how like we kind of got into like these spaces, and it was like we're coming out like the pandemic, things were getting better, obviously. And my friend Devon had opened up a podcast space. I was like, oh, that looks like a cool place to do interviews at. Like, it had mics, everything I needed for a pretty good price per hour. I was like, all right, I'm gonna go. All the money I saved during the pandemic, invest back in myself on the show, really do what I've wanted to do. Start doing it there. Then I was like, one day I was like, hey. Because I've done freestyles before, but like I did it like a very ghetto way. Like I just put a laptop there, put the headphones on,
And let somebody just go to town.
and then I had to like listen to like link up the audio. You know what I'm
had
saying?
to sync the audio.
Bingo, yeah. So I had to do it myself.
Okay.
So I was like, yo, how hard would it be to do a freestyle segment in this place? And they're like, that's easy. They're like, we got the mic downstairs, we can figure it out, right? So then we just kind of we started doing the freestyle segment there, and then obviously during that time it was like that's when the drill music, especially in the Bronx, was really taking off. So not a lot of artists coming to New York. You were like, okay, what can I do to help my platform continue to grow, even though I'm not getting a lot of artists from out of town, because they're not coming here on tours, they're not coming here on press, because there's no reason for them to come here because everything's closed. So obviously we looked towards New York, and the drill stuff was popping. I connected with a lot of the young guys, and then that's really what helped take the platform to new level. But the identity of On the Radar was, as much as like a lot
Don't
of like,
shortchange it, so I heard that because you said but. So in all reality, in the grand scheme of things, you're actually one of the pillars in terms of the drill music movement.
Sure, I would say definitely when it comes to.
So you're a pillar.
A pillar, definitely in like the Bronx. I don't want to say Brooklyn because I wasn't there doing stuff during that time of.
So is it
like,
right for me
pop.
to say, y'all got to, so with the drill movement, the Bronx is the epicenter, correct?
Right now, yeah.
So like if you wanted to say the genesis of this drill movement started, would the Bronx be the Mecca?
That's like a difficult statement.
Or would BK be the Mecca?
That's a difficult statement to pinpoint, and the reason why, and there's a good reason, but he's snickering, but there's like actually like a reason behind this, is because the Brooklyn drill movement, while it's different now, the core of what it started on was UK beats. Right?
Right.
UK influence was heavy, you know what I'm saying? When it comes to pop, Tutu, Chef, Sleepy, you know what I'm saying? Like Coast to Ghost. Everybody out there at the time, that was really, the beats was really more UK leaning, right?
Right.
Now they're like young Brooklyn drill artists who do more towards like what the sound is with the Bronx stuff. I mean, that's kind of like this overall sound now in general. But when you look at the Bronx drill stuff and how that kind of came about, their influence, and you ask them who their influences are, they say Chicago, right?
Okay.
Herbo, Dirk, Bibby, so on and so forth. So the energy that is put through their music is a little different than the Brooklyn side of things. Even though you'd have a lot of Brooklyn artists probably say Chicago artists too, but the way that I feel like the Bronx's drill scene.
They're two different hybrids.
Two different hybrids of different influences from different places. But they are also uniquely their own thing at the same time. But the influences is there.
See, you learn something new every day. Oh, it's some real shit because, like, I like drill. And I think one of the misconceptions when people talk about, like, artists from my era, like, they kind of like, there's no way you could dig drill because you're from this era. And
yeah.
Now, I listen to all of it, but I'm not so familiar with the genesis or the backstory.
Right.
Like, I know drill out here started in BK and the BX, but I never knew, like, for you to just point out and say there's more of a heavy influence from Chicago if you listen to the BX drill as opposed to BK drill.
Right.
And then when you mention UK drill as being the predecessor for BK drill,
Yep, the beats.
I
Yep.
can immediately make the connection because while you talking, I'm thinking of the first time I ever heard a Pop Smoke record. And I remember the first time I ever heard Pop Smoke, I was like, where's this nigga from, London? Because these beats sound
Yeah.
like... So I was up on the UK drill shit at that time, but he was like the first one I ever heard from here, just, I don't want to say jacking, but taking that and using it.
And change it to be a New York thing.
Exactly.
Yeah,
exactly.
and also if you kind of look at, there have been Bronx artists who have done songs with UK artists, like B Love and Digga D did a song together. But if you look at collaboration-wise, who you see more with who, you see like early on in Pop's career, he did. Yo, Cal, who was on the remix to Welcome to the Party from the UK? No, that Nicki Yes, yeah, Nicki Yes, but Skepta. I was thinking it was Skepta.
I heard of Skepta.
Skepta was on.
I dig Skepta.
Yeah, Skepta's fire. Skepta was on,
yeah.
and then I think Pop did a little mini tour with Skepta in the UK.
Okay.
But if you look at the Bronx, some of the first people to hop on records with K Flock and B Love from out of town was Herbo.
Okay.
You see what I'm doing there?
So
You see
Herbo's
it.
kind of like an OG in a sense.
Herbo, yeah,
With the drill movement.
Definitely with the drill movement. A lot of people, well, obviously, yeah, especially in Chicago. You know what I'm saying? Like I said, you think of like the early 2010s, you think of Herbo, you think of Dirk, you think of Rondo Number 9, you think of Chief Keef, you think of Bibby.
So Chief wasn't before them?
Chief Keef, and like I'm talking about like that's like early 2010s.
Right.
Like they were all around in the early 2010s, but
Because I'll be honest, he's like the first person I ever, when I started hearing drill,
yeah.
that's like the first artist that I ever heard drill associated with.
Yeah, and he definitely helped like mainstream it with Don't Like, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Obviously, because Don't
Yeah,
Like
fact.
is such a
That was
big record.
Yeah, that was a big
or
song.
Finito, you know what I'm saying? Finito still gets played everywhere
Right.
in parties. So that's kind of like the genesis of that getting popular. But it always existed there in Chicago. But like those guys that I mentioned were the ones who really kind of elevated the genre over there.
Right.
If I miss somebody, I miss somebody. You know what I'm saying? I'm not perfect. I can't name everybody. But yeah, because you know how people be. People be like, oh, you forgot something. I don't have enough brain power. Like, I be missing people. But like, in terms of that, like, that's kind of what brought up, in my opinion, from what I've seen and from talking to Herbo and all these guys, like, that kind of was like the genesis over there. So,
But he spits too, because I've seen him like on some regular spitting.
oh yeah, Herbo can rap.
Yeah, he gets it in.
He got a great song. Go check out his new album. He has a song with Benny the Butcher on it.
Really?
Yeah, Benny. He has a song with Benny and Conway, or was it West Side? It was one of those two. But he does have a song with Benny on that album too.
That's lit. I'm gonna check that. See, I'm into it.
I got you. You know what I'm saying?
I dig it. It ain't all for me, but I don't think there's any music, any genre where all of it is for you.
I agree.
You understand?
But there's something for everybody. Like people can still fuck with things.
Yeah.
And I think like a lot of the criticism that like at least kids face these days is like with like the music and the violence and shit like that. But like one, the violence has always been going on. You know what I'm saying? Violence has always been talked about in music, but the way that it's talked about now, obviously very different from 20, 30 years ago, right? Not everything I agree with personally, but like I just I look at it as like these are what these kids are living on a day-to-day basis, you know what I'm saying? Like, and this is, people who are on the outside looking in, whether it be like political media, whatever, you know what I'm saying? People just on the news talking shit. It's like, you can't really, I don't think people like that have a right to criticize what these kids talk about or what they say because they've never lived in that, they've never come from what they've come from, nor do they have any family members who come from where they come from. So it's not a relatable thing for them. But that shouldn't negate what they should be allowed to say because they're allowed to say it. Like I said, there are things that
No, they should definitely have the ability and the freedom to express themselves without question. But I think we're kind of
lines blur.
Yeah, I was gonna say where it gives you points to be like. It's funny because I'm older now, so I'll look at younger me as an artist, and I'll listen to like my earlier material, and sometimes I find myself saying shit like damn, it's fucked up. We had to grow up that way.
Right.
And I have kids now. So I'll listen to stuff and I'll be like, you kind of get conflicted internally because you're like, you don't want to perpetuate things, but then you're also always trying to express your experiences and hopefully that contributes to you being as authentic as you possibly could be as an artist.
Mm.
So I say that to make it all make sense. Like sometimes I have regrets as an artist
Right.
over some of my material.
And I'm sure that some of these kids today, in like 20 years from now, are gonna be like, "Why
And
did I say
that's what
that?"
I say. And
Yeah.
it's good you said, because what I say to people is you gotta allow them time to grow.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm quite certain, like case in point, if you went and you talked to a young Ice Cube who just finished doing, oh man, what album was that with Black Korea and Death Certificate.
Right.
So if you talk to a young Ice Cube who just came out the studio and recorded Death Certificate, and he has all these controversial songs, that was his mentality at that time.
Mm.
And I'm quite certain that if you went to Ice Cube now, being of the age he's at now, surviving all the things he survived,
Mm.
and not only just surviving, but thriving. And you're like, yo, would you make X, Y, Z? It might not be the same response now because experience gets to show you, you get appreciation from experience.
Mm.
So I'm gonna make it all make sense, bro. Trust me. So
I understand what you're trying to say, though.
right, the disconnect I think is some of us from my era look at what's going on now and be like, damn, bro, these little niggas is killing each other every week religiously. And I think that's the part that's hard to understand. And I think that that's also the part that gives certain people the urgency to say like, oh, well, they can't say that because that's perpetuating this and
Right.
that's the reason my 14-year-old got caught in the lunchroom with the grip on him at school.
Right. But I would also not counter that argument, but I'll also say now we have social media. So we see everything now.
Yeah, and there's that too.
You know what I'm saying? And like, I'm not gonna pretend like I'm 26. I'm not gonna pretend I was around in the early 90s or anything like that. But I have spoken to people who were around, and they're like, "Look, bro, like
Long time ago in a galaxy far, far away.
you know, these people are
Thanks, Gabe.
like, hey man, look,
Yeah, now that I'm in my coffin, ladies and gentlemen.
I never said that, bro. Stop
Nah,
that.
fuck
Stop that. Nobody might come for me in these comment sections about that. It's not what I said. But like, when I talk to people who have been around, they're like, look, this stuff has always happened. It's just the difference now is that everything gets posted online, so you see everything more too.
I say this, and granted, I can't speak for anyone's perspective other than my own, and I would never attempt to. Earlier on, if you'd have asked me where that comes into play, I might have been inclined to say, yeah, well, it was the same thing then in a different way.
Okay.
Like, because we did have all of this going on. We had, there was guns in the streets, there was drugs being sold, there was young people that, you know, came from broken homes or didn't have direction. The criminal justice system was filled to the brink of erupting. So we had all of that. Now, if you ask me, right? Now I would say, yeah, but there's definitely an argument to be made about, is there more of a volume? Is there more of a frequency? And is there more of an acceleration? And honestly, I think there's, and it's because of what you said. We didn't have social media.
Right.
So we didn't have the concept of everything in life revolves around this little heart on the left bottom corner of a screen. And then if it doesn't revolve around that heart, then it revolves around this number that's underneath this word that says followers. And I think that dynamic accelerated a lot of shit. And then I'll go back to what I was saying because, like I said, like when you can't help but think about your kids, you know. So if I think of my sons now and I say what I would want for them, going back to how I said experience and allowing yourselves to grow. When you get to that point of when you say to yourself, damn, I remember when I didn't think about the joy of just being able to be at peace with an existence in a moment, in a here and in a now. Right? And I mean little things, bro. I mean like Saquon just scored that red zone touchdown, and I got to see that 100-something yard, and that's cool for a Sunday. I'm glad I experienced that.
Yeah.
Me and my man told me a joke. That shit was hilarious. We had a good night. We went to Say Less. Then after that, we was listening to whatever, the little thing.
Yeah.
You understand what I'm saying? You get to a point in life where you start to realize, yo, you got to allow yourself to acknowledge those moments. And if you allow yourself to acknowledge those moments, they all add up. And then when you do that, that's when you start to say to yourself, yo, it don't make much sense to be destructive. But if you don't allow yourself to get to that point, that's where I think the debate comes into play.
Right.
You understand what I'm saying? And I get it. There's a lot of people now, bro, from my era who it's night and day between them and young bros. Like they don't give them that opportunity to explain.
Oh, explain. Okay. Got it.
Yeah, they don't. You understand what I'm saying? Like I'll be around my younger squad or whatever, and I'll readily be like, yo, explain this to me. Who's he? Where does he come from? What's okay? But then you get an understanding of it, which goes back to your point where you can't ask them to not write their reality.
Right.
But something has to give somewhere, because if the reality stays as it is now, who you gonna interview? Everybody gonna be dead.
Right.
From a gunshot wound.
Yeah.
So who does it fall on, bro? You feel what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Went to ponder, bro.
Yeah.
It's the couch.
It's the couch. It's the couch. And I'm making another point about social media too, right? Right? Because obviously we talked about, things being the same because no social media. I would say like the other thing I can say.
I'm sorry about that. It's my ring. I'm sorry.
I would say the other thing about social media is that like, a lot of it is like people, the way people express themselves on social media. So you mentioned the like button, right? How everything revolves around that. I think also the internet, like the social media stuff, creates a lot of like internet thugs, right? And what I mean by that,
we didn't have that,
right? And what I mean by that is, and also a lot of extra outside influence. So like, let's say I'm talking to one of these rappers, right? And I think of one specific example. I'm not gonna say who it is or whatever, but I asked him, I'm like, yo, bro, like, why everybody online said you had a problem with this guy, right? Whether asking this on the camera or off the camera, because I don't involve myself in shit like that. Because I'm here for the music.
Please don't.
I'm here for the music.
Because the couch is cool.
The couch is cool.
We want more couches and more facilities. Please don't.
Right. The point of this couch is that we here to talk about music and have real discussions. Right.
Right.
But I do have like real talks with them off the couch because I feel like being my age, like I have to at least like try to at least hear them out and see what they have to say. So I'll be like, oh, so why, like, so what's up with this? But y'all cool now. And they're like, yeah, we cool now. Like, people in like just will go in each other's comment sections and lives and say, oh, I said this about him. He said this about me. And it would all be stuff fabricated by
misinformation and disinformation.
By probably an 8-year-old with a phone. You know what I'm saying? Because like I've seen a lot of these kids' fans like in person before, and a lot of them is way younger than them. A lot of them is maybe like anywhere from the ages of 7 to 13, if not maybe 7 to 12.
Right.
So you think like when you look at a lot of these like comment sections, especially like in the drill community or like up and coming artists that are like new, like it's like a lot of kids in there, and let's say like two people, whether they're on opposing sides or not, doesn't matter. But let's say they are on opposing sides, they don't like each other, right? But they don't really know each other like that. They don't really got no issues with each other aside from the fact that they don't like each other. That the blocks don't like each other.
But it spirals out of control.
Because people online could just be like you could be an 8-year-old with an account, you know what I'm saying? Mike 5'3", whatever.
Yeah.
No one will know it's like you, realistically, because you're just a random 8-year-old kid.
Right.
You're like, and you comment on somebody's post like, yo, this person said this about you on the IG live, right? And then if you a hothead, right, and you an artist or whatever, blah, 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 you gonna go into your IG story, go on IG live, be like, oh, fuck this guy, fuck whatever. And then that's how things, spiral out of control because it's just people just be chatting online. And then these things just continue to spiral. Nobody's seeing each other in person like that. Nobody's, you know what I'm saying? It's just like that. It be people online who make these artists, kids, whatever, spiral out of control. And
The peanut gallery.
the peanut gallery, yeah, exactly. The peanut gallery will make these kids spiral out of control because the peanut gallery is feeding them, is whispering in the air like, yo, this person,
Right.
he said this about you. He said this about your mans, or something. Said this about your mans who passed. You know what I'm saying? Like, and that is like how these things get worse. And then everybody goes on their IG stories, and everybody goes on their IG lives.
So
everybody's talking shit.
So can that be remedied, or do we just accept that?
I mean, I personally don't accept that. I think that it's stupid.
Like, do you think it's out of hand? I mean, in general now, the violence.
With the violence, like when it comes to like violence, I feel like, because you know what's interesting? I actually read this article, and it was about like how violence in New York is technically, numbers wise, has decreased over the years, right?
According to stats.
According to stats, right? That's why I put this.
Right. Yeah.
That's why I put this. Right. That's why I put this. That's why I put this. Right.
Okay.
According to stats, because anybody could just make up some numbers, right?
Yeah.
But by the numbers, I mean, if it's by the numbers, yes, it has, right? But again, social media amplifies what we see more. So even if it is lower, we see more now. You know what I'm saying? The numbers could be lower, but we see everything now because everything gets reported on, everything gets posted, everything gets this, everything gets that. So whether it is more violent now or not, it's up to interpretation based on what you see, what you believe, what you read, right?
So honestly, put you as an individual, you don't think it's more violent?
No, I do think it. No, I'm gonna get there. Yeah, like I do feel like it's more violent, but also, you don't think it's more violent? Why don't you think it's more violent?
There's just more cameras now.
There is more cameras now.
I don't think it's more violent though.
I think. Said the hip hop artists.
That makes regular violence.
Say that again. You think the hip hop artists?
There's more violence in the hip hop sector versus, or they would talk about it. Snoop would say something, but
that you know of because nothing was broadcasted to us because they weren't on social media. See, this is why everything is based on what you believe, what you see. You know what I'm saying?
this is the more violent thing.
Right, the phone, yeah, which is what we just talked about with the IG lives and shit. Everything that we're talking about is subjectable.
Okay, but with that being said, you don't think the phone, along with social media, because the phone is just the bridge between the individual and social media.
Right.
So you don't think that all of that together has come together and made it a bit more than usual? I don't know, bro.
Subjective. That's why I'm saying. That's why we have these conversations. Everything is subjective.
Because you could say the 80s and I could think back, again, galaxy far, far away, because I'm in the coffin. You could say the 80s and, yeah, the 80s were bad. Like, during the time of you know, the crack era, yeah, there was a lot happening. But it wasn't in the blatancy that it happens now. No, but see, this is where the disconnect lies. Look, and I'm trying to tell. Look, niggas ain't shit.
All right, just for reference,
right?
He said the old people gonna make our
and I'm
generation
actually
look
trying to say no. I go out of my way to overstand because we need to overstand to have that conversation. This is a conversation that should be. There should be no reason why old and young are not conversing at a table.
Right. Which is why, like I said, we could talk about this and everything is subjective because of what we see, what we believe, and what is in front of our faces.
But what I will say, and this is this is what I could say, because to have witnessed that firsthand, and then to have gone through the 90s firsthand, and to still be blessed enough to be here now to see what it is now, there is a difference.
But here's what I will say. So, like, I will say this in like a subjective towards like the more like is less violent side of things. Cause I think about, so like my abuela, my grandmother, she lives in Bushwick, right? So I spent a lot of my early years here in Bushwick with her, you know what I'm saying? Cause obviously wasn't in school, you know, because this is where I got left off, right? And like, I'm not gonna pretend like I remember what it was like when I was 4 years old, but like I remember like early years being out here, right? I remember early years being in Brooklyn, in Bushwick.
Oh yeah, Bushwick was crazy.
Yeah, Bushwick was great, and I remember that as a kid, right?
Yeah.
I remember holding her hand going into the project building. I remember being around in that building, going up the stairs, getting trapped in the elevator, the spit in the stairs, people fighting in the lobby. Like I remember all these things, right? And it's definitely not like that anymore, even in her project building, you know? And I'm not trying to use that as like the example for the whole city, because that would be obviously wrong.
Right.
But I'm just using that as an example of what I've seen in my life and where I've been, right? So I think about that, right? And how things have changed. Now, granted, that's just one area of Brooklyn. You know what I'm saying? I'm not gonna pretend like I grew up and hanging out around Crown Heights or Bushwick and Williamsburg is where I was because of my family, right? And what I remember. So I will use that as like an example. Like even her building got a lot better too because now I haven't seen nothing like that around her building. And
Well, yeah, certain, but you got to look.
But also certain areas get better.
I was going to say you got to look at the grand scheme.
Yeah.
You got to look at every variable that played a part in that equation to bring you to the answer, the equal that you're at now.
Right. Like
so
I said,
there was a Giuliani who came in and cleaned up the city with a, you know,
the stop and frisk.
Right.
Yeah.
Cleaned the city up like nobody's business, who was followed up by a Bloomberg who had more of a, it wasn't as much of an abrasive approach, but a lot of those policies flowed from one administration into the next.
Right.
So some of the things you might have seen as a kid, I remember the train as a kid, and the train as a kid was like, welcome to the Terror Dome. Like,
right.
Just being on the train in the late 80s, early 90s as a kid, I could remember vividly, like the graffiti everywhere. Play with your life, go down it, you know. But to bring it to where it is now, I could see why some of us my age would sit there and say, yeah, it ain't the same.
Right.
And it has a lot to do with these brand new tools that came out of Pandora's box and the genie coming out of the bottle, and what do you do when those things happen?
Right. But like I said, it's a subjective, you know what I'm saying? Me and him could have one opinion about our generation and how we look at it, and then our experiences, and then obviously you guys have your own. And like, and you know what the real answer is? The real answer is somewhere in the middle.
Exactly.
The answer is,
but you can't get to that middle until you start talking about it.
Right.
So I think we did. My hope at the end of it all is that all of this is just a period in time, and it's not the norm.
Well, I think you got to look about it like as music, right? Let's look about let's take it like let's switch it up a little bit. So you think about like the SoundCloud era of hip hop, right? And this is what I say whenever people ask me about, do you think that this era of hip hop is gonna last? And the answer to that is everything changes. Always changes, always has, always will, and always will. Always will.
And it will.
So you think of like SoundCloud, right? So SoundCloud was like 2014-ish, maybe 2013, 2014-ish to maybe like 2018, 2019, right? Like height, like I'm talking about like height, right? When you had people like XXX Tentacion or Juice WRLD or, you know what I'm saying? I'm Lil Peep, like God rest all their souls. But like that music was more so not so much about violence and guns and things like that, but was more so about drugs, partying, Right. And then, of course, there was like fun music in between there. Like,
it was all vibe.
It was all vibes.
It was all vibes.
It was all vibes, right? And then you start switching over where it kind of goes back into like a gangster rap type of bag, right?
Right.
Like Lil Durk, I mean, that always was there, right? And all these things will always coexist with each other, but it's just like, it's like a seesaw. Like what's gonna become the more popular thing, right? Whether it's like the early 2000s, like the lyrical stuff with that Joey Badass and like kind of the trippiness that A$AP Rocky and A$AP Mob brought into the fashion stuff leading into like the SoundCloud. It's always gonna change, right? Something's always gonna kind of start to outweigh the other. And right now it's just kind of like this drill rap, which is just kind of a different form of gangster rap, and that's what's hot right now. But that doesn't mean it's gonna be hot like this forever.
So where do you see it going?
I see the same way that you look at. So you look at the SoundCloud era, right? You look at people like Lil Uzi Vert, right? Or you look at people like Lil Yachty.
Right.
I'm trying to think who else was big that, you know,
from that era
that's still around and kind of doing that. I had Rich the Kid on the couch here earlier today. Rich the Kid was still part of that time too.
The tail end.
Yep, still not making the same type of music as them, but in that range,
within that
that range, right? Or like the trap music, which was kind of in between there. You know what I'm saying? With like Migos, God Rest Takeoff. But like you look at that, right? And you like during those times, there's a ton of them, right? Like if you look at the SoundCloud era, there was thousands of SoundCloud artists who were all hot at the time, right? We don't know all of them, but there was a ton that were hot. But now you look at who's still around, there's only a handful that are still around that are still relative or popping or hot or whatever. So like Uzi, Yachty, whatever, that you still see every year on lineups at festivals. Playboi Carti, great example too. Playboi Carti is a great example too. And I think that's gonna pretty much be the same thing that happens with where we're at right now with like these new artists and the drill stuff. Like right now, it's hot, it's popular, that's what everybody wants to do. So there's gonna be thousands of drill artists, right? quote unquote drill artist. But in 3 years from now, whatever the new sound is, whatever it changes, you know what I'm saying? Like there are kids right now who are between the ages of 13 and 19 who are going to become the new artists of that new sound.
Right.
So whatever that sound changes into is going to outweigh this current sound. Because, you know, we're always moving on to what's next. Like, what's next? What's hot? What's next? What's next? And right now, drill is what's hot and what's now, but it's not going to be what's next because it already exists. And then those artists, you might have a couple artists who are still out and about, who are still making music, who are still on these festival lineups, but they're also now forced to grow and change with the times. The same way that Lil Uzi and Lil Yachty are forced to grow and change with the times.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like Lil Uzi just did a song over like the Philly Club beat, but Lil Uzi wouldn't have done that if people like D32 Rare and Za Sosa didn't create that movement in Philly, but he's adapting to the times.
Look, he just said people. I have no idea who the fuck.
But I'm explaining it to like this. So like so now you take a look at like, let's look at New York drill, right? As an example, like you look at New York drill, right? You think of like some of the big artists, you know what I'm saying? Like whether it's Fabio, K-Flock, whoever, who are still around and who are still doing music. I mean, K-Flock is locked up, but he still has music coming out. But let's say he gets out and Fabio's out and all these.
Wait, time out. That's the one in the video with Cardi B?
Yeah. He's not in the video. He was locked up at the time, but.
That's the video when they're in the bodega, though.
Yeah, that's.
He's locked up?
K-Flock wasn't in that video. He's been locked up.
He wasn't in the video.
No, he wasn't.
But he's on the song. Though.
But it's his song. Yeah.
It's his song.
But he's locked up. Yeah.
Wow.
So like, but let's say these guys are, you know, they're the leaders of this drill era, right? Like they make it out in the sense of like they're still relative in a couple years from now, right? And they're being forced to change how they sound to whatever match the times. But that's just them. They're the ones who made it out. They're the ones who are still relative. They're still ones who are popular. But then a new generation of music is going to come in. Now, you kind of start to see the hints of that right now. So, like, you think of, like, Drake with the dance music or Beyonce with the dance music, right? The dance music stuff, because people are like, okay, we got the gangster music right now. People fucking with the gangster music. It's cool, whatever. But eventually, people are going to get tired of that. You know, just like the way that if you listen to an album.
Yeah, because you can't shoot and rob everyone every day.
Right, and if you listen to an album,
you don't even want to hear about shooting and robbing every day at a certain point.
Bingo. So you think so like it's like how you listen to an album 30 times, no matter if it's your favorite artist or not. At some point, you're gonna get tired.
You're gonna get tired. Yeah.
You want to listen to it maybe 10 years from now, right?
Right.
That's gonna change into that. Like you think of the rise of dance music again. You think of the rise of Afro beats, right? And you start to think, okay, this is like the feel good music that people want. Now, when labels eventually get tired of dealing with drill artists, aside from the 2 or 3 that people really like and that are still popular and that, you know, are easy to work with, even the way that the music industry entirely shifts is going to move to whatever that is. So I think that so basically in summary of what I'm trying to say is that drill music isn't necessarily going anywhere, but I wouldn't just tell artists like, yeah, just keep doing drill music. I would say start thinking 3 steps ahead now of what people are going to want 3 years from now.
Diversify.
Because if not, you're going to get left behind the same way that a lot of those SoundCloud artists got left behind.
I think it's hope.
Huh?
I think it's hope. I don't think it's all doom and gloom and that.
No, it's definitely not all doom
and gloom. Because I hear
and
the same things. I hear people say like, yo, it won't last.
And that's not what I'm trying to say. I'm not trying to say it's not going to last.
No.
This isn't a doom or gloom type of thing. This is it'll be around the same way that SoundCloud music is still around.
Right.
But it's not going to be as popular and it's not going to be as prevalent and not as important to the time and the culture at the moment anymore. And because it's popular right now, because it's just what's hot. Just the same way that trap music was hot, that Migos era was important, but that doesn't stop them from being artists to this day. You know what I'm saying? That doesn't stop people from liking their music. It's just they change and evolve. Like when Versace came out versus when Culture 3 came out, very different artists,
completely different
sounds.
Yeah.
And that's okay. But it'll always be around, but it's just going to change. And there won't be as many artists doing drill music 5-6 years from now because all the youth who would be the ones doing it are going to be doing something else.
And I think as an artist too, if you're lucky enough to evolve, you get to the point where you tell yourself like, yo, I can't talk about that no more. That's not.
And I think,
everyday is.
That brings me one more thing. My last point on this, right? Shout out my brother AJ Tracy. He's an artist from the UK, right?
Okay.
Shout out. Yeah, shout out AJ. He's one of the biggest, you know, he used to be a drill, kind of, I wouldn't even say, he's just an artist, right? But he used to make drill music, right? And I asked him about it. I was like, this was back in April, right? And I was like, bro, like, I noticed, like, you're not really making, like, the drill music you used to make anymore. And he's 27, 28, so he's, like, a little older than me. And he was like, to be completely honest with you, bro, he's like, I was angry back then. I was young.
Yeah.
He's like, it was my environment.
Yeah.
He's like, I've just toured the world with Amine. He's like, I've seen different things now.
There it goes.
And he's like, so now I allow myself to grow and be the, and this goes back to what you said at first.
You see what I'm saying?
And
Yeah.
so he's like, I allow myself to become the person who I was meant to be. And I don't want to make music like that anymore because that's not the life that I'm living. And he made music with T-Pain. It was called Summertime. What was it called? Summertime Shootout? I forgot what it was. But it was like a summer party song.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? That's the type. And even his freestyle here, we have a plaque for it right there too. 10 million plays on Spotify. And it was over a Jersey Club beat. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So it was a more upbeat tempo type of song. So
But that's the thing, bro.
And so
he
that's
allowed himself
to grow and change.
and not only that, he wasn't afraid to go back and analyze his own growth.
Yeah. And he
say
talked
to
about it.
himself, I can't rhyme about X, Y, and Z because this isn't my reality anymore.
Exactly.
Allow yourselves to grow, man. I swear to God, you're gonna thank yourself in the long run, man.
Yeah, so I think that's what I meant to bring up before, but I'm glad I brought it up now because I think that kind of puts like the cherry on top of that. Is because, I think AJ is fucks with a lot of the young guys over here.
Mm-hmm.
So I be telling him like, bro, just tell them what you experience and show them what you experience, and like. You hope that by having that conversation with him, because he's only maybe 10 years older than a lot of them, but, the UK drill came first. So hopefully by your experience and what you went through, you show these kids, okay, I can live a different life and I can make a different type of music. Because if you look at him from 6 years ago versus him last year and the album he put out last year, two very different type of people, but now he's more accepted. The cops don't shut down his shows.
Look at that.
He gets to perform at some of the biggest festivals in the UK and America, and he gets to go on a world tour, or he went on a countrywide tour or world tour with Amine in America.
You brought up another good point too. Can't be afraid to let go.
Yeah.
Because there's so much shit that we're taught coming up, when you outside and you in the streets and all of that. There's so much shit that you get taught, that they got taught, that they got taught, that they got taught, that if you get that opportunity to allow yourself to analyze all of it, you just start to see. A lot of it is shit that, the quicker you let go of it, the better off you're going to be.
Bingo.
But it's hard when you're in the middle of all of that, and it's hard when that's all you know, to let go of things like ego and pride and that mentality that these streets will give you is very hard to let go of things like that.
Absolutely.
But if you allow yourself, you're better off for it.
Yeah. So that's kind of like the point I wanted to make with that, because I feel like sometimes a lot of artists are out here, they look at it, they're like, oh, there's not a lot of hope for me to grow. But someone like AJ is like the perfect example, even though he's not from here. But like, London, New York, we're not that different.
Right.
Different.
We really are. And no
what
matter
did Central
where
C
you
say?
go.
He said, y'all call it trenches, we say the ends.
Right.
The same shit.
And it's funny because when you do get the opportunity to go around the world and you go to different places, you start to see how much you have in common with the rest of the world that you never got to see. All you got to see was what your television showed you or what your monitor showed you. But once you go to these different places across the world and you start to see everyone struggles. There's poverty everywhere. There's some families are nuclear families, some families it's just mama. That's all over this world. But once you get to go across the world and you start to see other people taking part in the same things that you took part in a different space in this world, it changes your perception. It changes your view. So my hope, like I said again, is that they allow themselves to grow and they allow themselves to see the value of appreciation, because everybody don't need to be killing everybody.
Right.
You don't even want to see that. So I just want the young boys to succeed and enjoy it.
Yeah, and be able to enjoy life.
But in the truest sense of enjoying it. You know what I mean?
But they won't understand what you're saying until they're a lot older.
I know, and
until they're maybe my age or
right,
older.
and then that'll be that moment, hopefully, where somebody's standing there 10 years from now, like, wow, I understand what they was talking about that day on the radio. I get it. You know,
Yeah.
so
Even like
hopefully
now, I'm having those moments about like 10 years ago. It's
I
like
have them too. They don't stop. Like I know I'm
he said they don't
1,000 years
stop.
old.
You're not 1,000 years old,
Right.
bro. Please stop.
I'm fucking with you.
But like even like it's like you know when they say when they're like, oh, you gonna find out one day.
Yeah, and
then
they was
you
right.
fuck around
And then you find out.
You
Yeah.
fuck around and you
And
find
you
out. You
find
like,
out, and you like,
like,
damn,
fuck.
they did say that. Yeah, they knew what they was talking about.
Yeah.
So this is cool.
And then you
yeah.
mad as shit because you like, damn man, like it's like
Yeah, but that's when if I'd have just been this way back then and I'd have listened sooner, but you can't do that neither because
No, you
everything
can't.
happens when it's supposed to. You feel
everything.
me?
That's my thing.
Everything happens
Yeah.
when it's supposed to. So, but like we were saying, hopefully everybody gives themselves and they give that process of evolution the time it needs to fully gel and take shape.
Right.
know,
Yeah. Like
so-
you gotta really just kind of let the process happen. But two is like, like you said, I say that every single time. Like even when Calvin here, right? I'm calling you out. Hi, Cal. When Cal, like, let's say we have an artist tomorrow, right? And he's really fucking excited for the artist, right? I'm really excited too. Don't get me wrong. I'm excited for everybody.
Right.
But when he's really excited for the artist, to the point where he's calling my phone like 3 days before asking if they're still coming.
What, he be calling you tweaking like, yo,
Yep, just like that. Just like
Yo!
that. Yo!
who you be tweaking over?
Wait, who was the last artist that you were really excited for that didn't end up coming? Yeah, who? Tusi. Okay, Oh, Smino. Smino. Good example, right? Because
Who?
Smino, he's a. Yeah, it's okay.
No disrespect, bro. I'm so sorry, Smino. Shout out to Smino.
Shout out to Smino. Well, first of all, Smino's an incredible
Knows-
artist. New album out now. Single with J. Cole out now. But the thing is with Smino, right? Because like Smino had requested to come on here, and there's some things happened, and it just didn't work out, right? And I was really bummed about it too. But a big thing.
Wait, but he got here.
No, he didn't come here. He didn't come back yet.
Oh God.
But a big
Smino did. I'm talking.
But a big thing for me is like, look, bro, I tell him, I'm like, look, everything's gonna happen when it's supposed
When
to
it's
happen,
supposed to.
and they're gonna come back when they're supposed to come back, and it's always gonna happen, because it always has happened. You know
But we
what I'm
gonna get Smino up here, right?
saying? Yeah, Smino gonna
I might come that day just cause I like his name. Like that's a mean name. Like I'm interested. Smino, you good, bro?
I think a good example of me saying that too, like, and I think like the most potent example is like when our most viewed freestyle, right? D-Thang, 9 point something million views, right? And the day that we did the interview, he didn't want to do the freestyle because he was sick, but he promised he would come back. And I was like, promises don't really, when they happen, they happen. You know what I'm
Right.
saying? Free D-Thang too, by the way. But then he actually came back. And then we made history together.
Did you tweak that day, bro?
No, he wasn't with us at that time. He was.
Oh,
yeah,
that
it
was before
it
you.
was before his time.
I'm so sorry
But, okay,
about
so
that, bro.
let's say in context of like somebody more recent, let's say in a context of somebody more recently, who's somebody who came back? Yeah, who's somebody that came back? I'm trying to think. Well, okay, somebody, I don't know, Flo Milli? I don't fucking know. But there have been people who have like canceled and then they've come back to us over time.
Over the course of time.
Over the course
yeah.
of time. And I've always told them, like, look, it wasn't meant to happen back then, but it's meant to happen now. NLE Choppa, knock on wood, NLE Choppa's coming this week, right?
Oh.
Even if he doesn't come this week, we still had it situated and we still, you know what I'm saying? It'll happen when it's supposed to happen.
Smino,
He's at
NLE
Smino.
Choppa, don't even trip. Yeah.
I like this because this has just been like a conversation with Mike. It's not an interview. We just kind of been having a conversation. But I want to get y'all to rap soon. So I'm gonna ask you like one interview question.
Just
right?
one.
Just one. Because we just been talking. Well, you have an album on the way.
Yeah. Yeah.
Fire.
Yeah. I'm happy with it. It's good. But first of all, I gotta shout out the crew. Shout out YVS, Shampoo, happy birthday, all of that. You feel me? But yeah, we got a project coming out so far, and I think it'll probably stay titled 3016. Damn, who can I say? Because I always get yelled at about what I can say and what I can't say just yet. What I can say is I have a couple of features, a lot of features, and they're probably not going to be features that people would, how do I put it? Probably would, some of them you probably wouldn't think to say like, yo, how did they link or whatever, but I'm very excited about the people I worked with, the material we've done. I I work with DJ Toon, which
Nice.
is one of my heroes in life. Mr. Lee, who's done a lot of production for Face Mob, and Scarface, and Nipsey Hussle, rest in peace. A lot of the crew from Death Row, from the original Death Row camp, produced things for me. And then, you know, I have like the people that throughout the years I, you know, had a good working relationship with, you know, such as Pete Rock and Large Pro. That's like my bro. So, you know, he's on there as well. And damn, what features can I mention in that? Yeah, my man Benny, who just finished working with Havoc, and they just did a project together. And he's working with me doing things as well. And it's just all my influences. My man Six is on there, who he's the new breed, and he's been helping me with the pen in the studio from time to time. And there's that coming, and my whole movement, which is Q&B, and we all moving as one. So I'm excited, bro. I'm stoked, like they used to say. So I can't wait, you know.
People still say stoked.
Yeah, I say stoked.
I say something.
I would always.
He said as they used to say.
To the end, I'm gonna say stoked, right? You know, so but in the truest sense, like I've never felt this good and this grounded and this married to music in my existence.
Word.
Yeah.
Well, we looking forward to it, man.
I am too, so that means good. We all look forward together.
It's the couch, man. It's the couch.
It's the couch.
So we gonna have you rap. So we got Six, right? Six, you rapping today?
Yeah, six gotta go easy because he will put us under the table.
You.
No, just 16, you doing the rap?
Who's rapping today?
You going rap 16? Rap 16?
I was like, you.
Six, you
I,
rhyming?
like, when he walked in, I'm like, I
You
know
got
that's not who I
bars?
think. I know.
You getting on?
Yeah, yeah.
You gonna spit?
60, you think 60 can.
Come on, bro.
When 60 walked in, I was like, I know that's not who I think it is. What's up, bro?
Yeah, so
So you're rapping today with him. All right.
Six get it in. Yeah, so that's what we do.
That's what we do.
Wait, I'm trying, but who can I mention collab wise with Shampoo and shout out to Scarface? Yeah,
Scarface.
Shout out to Face.
Shout out Scarface.
I can't say damn.
You can tell me off camera though.
Yeah, because
We
it's
can do
fucked up. Because I really want to tell everybody, but I can't. Cause
Keep it a surprise.
I think so.
Keep it a
I
surprise.
think that's what's going to happen, but it's worth it. Me personally, I think I floored the natural, and that's all I wanted to do was to be able to say that I outdid my first album, and then I could just, you know, figuratively jump on my horse and ride off into the sun and not come back. So that's the plan I'm gonna go with, and so I can sit on one of these all day and do nothing.
I'll send you the link on Wayfair.
Yeah, that's it. Wayfair is lit.
Yeah, Wayfair's all this furniture.
Is super lit.
Wayfair's all this furniture.
But back to the project, it's 3016, and I'm paying homage to my dad.
Nice.
My dad passed away a couple of years ago, but he was NYPD and he was in the military, but his badge number was 3016.
God bless.
So that was just my way of honoring him, and it's a lot of fireworks.
Word, man.
Yeah.
Well, great conversation today.
Yeah, bro.
Can't wait. 3016, the album on the way.
Absolutely.
Freestyle out now by the time y'all see that.
Yeah.
Anything else you want to let the people know where they can follow you at? All that good stuff. Now is the time to do it. This camera right here.
So you can find me on IG at Mike Geronimo. You can go on Facebook, the Mike Geronimo fan page. You can go on Twitter, I think is at Real Mike Geronimo. TikTok, I think is at Real Mike Geronimo. If all else fails, you can go to the website, which is MikeGeronimoMusic.com. Or you can go to the YouTube channel, and I think that's pretty much all of it.
Boom.
Yeah,
well, there you have it.
I'm there.
3016, the album on the way. Freestyle out now. Make sure you go check that out. Go follow him. Go show him some love. Go show him some support. Love is free. Support is free. The album isn't free, but y'all gonna buy it and stream it anyway.
Yes.
Till next time, Mike Geronimo on the radar. NYC, we in the building. Boom.